I'm going to talk to you about a single thing that you can do that can improve the taste of food, it can improve life satisfaction, it can improve happiness levels, and the best thing is it's completely free and anyone can do it. It is simply the act of eating around a table. I'm absolutely bowled over by some of the research around this topic. And to chat to me about this, I've got science writer and researcher at the Doctor's Kitchen, Sakina, and food producer Órfhlaith around our podcast table to talk about this topic that is super interesting. I sent Sakina you a study like a couple of months ago, and I was like, we should definitely talk about this because I was pretty shocked that just the act of what's it called? Commensality?
Commensality, the practice of eating together with other people, which I didn't know this term before. I started reading as well.
Totally. But commensality is my new favourite word.
Yeah, me too. We should use it more often.
Yeah.
And you sent me that study and we didn't look into it for a few months, but now it's Christmas time, almost.
Yes, exactly.
So it's the time to look into that.
Exactly. And I was pretty shocked at like what it showed and thought, so we thought we'd do this podcast where we could talk about some of the studies, the reasons behind some of the health benefits of eating around a table, and the fact that part of a Mediterranean diet, it's not really a diet, it's more of a lifestyle, is yes, legumes and yes, beans and yes, largely plants, but also eating around a table is actually part of that Mediterranean way of life as well. So yeah, really excited to get into this subject and hear some of Órflaith's reactions to what we're going to be chatting to as well. So let's start off with some of the studies that kicked off this discussion. There's one around life satisfaction. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so that's the one you sent. It was a survey. So it was a survey study conducted in the UK. And they found that people who ate with other people more often had higher life satisfaction and they were more trusting of others than people who ate alone more often, which makes sense, I think. It's quite. And then there was another one that you find on, I think, family. Eating.
Yes, the healthy eating pattern. So there was a systematic review that found a positive association between family meal frequency, so that's the number of times you sit down to eat with your family, and they found that 3 or more meals per week improved or was associated with a healthy dietary pattern, such as increased consumption of fruits, vegetables, whole grains and beans. Now, it's important to say with these sort of reviews, you don't want to confound causality with correlation, because you could also see like, okay, if I am more likely to be able to sit around a table with my family, is that associated with me being in a high income bracket or having a more stable home life? Is there some sort of correlation that we don't want to confound with causality? But it's still really interesting because we're going to go into some of the reasons as to why that might be happening, right?
Yeah, it's difficult with correlation data to understand what direction the relationship goes. But with the survey study, they did a path analysis to try and see, so it still doesn't prove causality, but it's trying to understand the direction of the relationship, and they showed that it clearly favors going from eating together leading to better outcomes rather than the opposite way. So with that, so with the 3 studies that we're going to talk about and the potential reasons, it still shows that there could be benefits in that direction of eating together causing benefits rather than the other way around as well.
Absolutely. And there was another one looking at there was 14 papers about frequency of family meals as well, again associated with psychosocial outcomes. Was that the same one that you would?
That's a different one. There's a third paper and it was looking at psychological well-being in children and adolescents. So they found that frequent family meals was linked to better psychological outcomes and also school success and self-esteem. So families who ate regularly more often, their children had better outcomes in terms of their mental health and also in terms of school success. Which it could be the other way around. It could be there's a lot of other factors that could play, but it's an interesting link, I think.
Yeah, so the headline is, look, the more likely you are to be sat around a table, the more likely you are to have better self-esteem, happiness, school success, all these different things. So taking in mind that sort of like correlation, causation. Órfhlaith, how many times do you sit around a table to eat your meals at home?
At home, now I do it every day.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, okay, so I've lived with my boyfriend for a year. So I think we're still in the honeymoon stage where like, yeah, that's something we really prioritize. But when you were talking about that, one period in my life I remembered was when I was working as a chef, where you were lucky if you got to take a break at all. And I know that's common for chefs everywhere. And if you did get to take a break, it would be like maybe 15 minutes and like you'd go to a storeroom and like maybe find an empty bucket and turn it upside down and just sit and like wolf something down. And yeah, that's not great. So I feel a lot happier now that I don't have to eat my lunch that way.
Honestly, it reminds me of every single situation I've been in when working within the NHS and hospitals. It is exactly the same. You literally go on your designated lunch break, whatever that, whenever that is, whenever you can actually take a break. You grab your Tupperware from the fridge. The fridge is crazy full with loads of stuff that's out of date. You wolf something down on your own and then you go right back to work.
Super quickly.
And you feel guilty for eating at all.
100%. Yeah, you do. Yeah, there's a lot of similarity, I think, with the sort of chef lifestyle.
Yeah.
I remember doing some like well-being events for restaurateurs and people working chefs and like, it's similar like to my experience working at A&E. You're in like an environment where there's no natural light, you don't get a chance to go outside. In a lot of cases, chefs work underground in the basement. Again, like 10 minutes to go outside and usually have like a cigarette break or whatever. There's a commonality with cigarette smoking and A&E doctors as well. So yeah, lots of similarities.
And then when you get home at night, it's quite late as well, right? So you don't really have the time, and maybe you come home and your partner's already in bed, or so you don't have the time, or people are just on different schedules. Yeah. So you won't eat with other people at all.
Absolutely. There's actually new legislation around hospital doctors or hospitals in general. Saying that there has to be 24-hour provisions of hot food for staff, which sounds like a good thing, but actually practical in practical terms, it's very, very hard to execute on that. And actually, people who operate the restaurants would be operating at a loss because there's just isn't the demand required, and the staff needed to provide 24-hour provisions is obviously going to outstrip the number of people purchasing from those concessions. So
in practice it's a tricky one too. Like all these studies are really interesting and they point us in a good direction, so it's cool to understand the reasons why, so we can kind of put time aside when we can, but in practice it can be very difficult to do and find the time
and actually when you were just saying getting back from like a late shift, whether you're a chef or a doctor or another shift worker, if you're going to be eating around that time, you're going to be disrupting your circadian rhythm. You're going to be disrupting the quality of your sleep. You're introducing food where your microbiome actually needs your gut needs a rest. So there's all these sort of like compounding factors that can lead to the negative consequences of someone who is eating alone.
Yeah. So what do you think are the reasons why? So we have those studies. What do you think could explain those benefits of eating with other people? Do you have any kind of... We had a quick look at it, but I'm sure there's loads of reasons, because there's not that much research on it. We need more, I think, research, because it's an interesting topic. For sure. And it's part of human history to eat with other people. What do you think are some of the reasons to explain the link? Like first gut.
I guess the gut?
First gut feeling.
Gut feeling?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like, don't ask me to explain gut science. I didn't agree to that.
That's all right.
I guess it's just like relationships make us happier and having connection with other people. Like, I think that's one of the most important things for a happy life. And so just like having that moment to like be with other people, that's good for you.
Yeah. Actually, I had this conversation with my therapist actually a couple of months ago, and she was like, what is your happy place? What do you picture when you think of like some of the happiest moments in your life? And it is always, and I don't know whether this is because I'm in food and I'm a massive foodie, but it's always when I'm sat around a table with my closest and dearest friends. And the image that comes to mind is my wedding day, and we had this long table where I literally had my family, like my baby sister was opposite me. I had my wife's family and all my best friends on one long table. Well, we had a very, very small wedding in Italy, And that is like, that just for me is just happiness in like in a snapshot for me. But it can also be extended to like the other week when I went to, have you been to the Pelican in Notting Hill?
No, but you keep on telling me I
Oh my
need
God,
to go.
it's brilliant. Yeah. They do this like lobster pie.
Oh, the lobster pie.
Phenomenal. It's really good. It serves like 3 or 4 people and it's like £80, but it's worth it. If you can find like three people to choose that with you. And that was just like, 4 or 5 of us. I had my dog with me. And that for me is like happy space. And I guess it's like that opportunity for laughter and storytelling. Just one of the reasons that we isolated is the potential associations between being sat around a table, having time to eat your meal with others, as to why we see those benefits.
Yeah, that's one of the studies actually showed that social laughter, laughing with other people, releases endorphins in the brain. So it can promote feelings of feeling calm and feeling safe. And so it can promote bonds between people. And obviously we don't always laugh when we're eating around the table, but it's an opportunity to kind of tell stories, tell jokes, what happened in the day. And I think even in the office today, most of the moments where we connected with each other and we had a laugh was when it was around food, either because someone made a dad joke about something, or we kind of had a story or a quick chat, and it did create those opportunities to laugh and to connect and to kind of do those social activities. So that could be one of the link. It's funny because for me, the moments where that I remember, for example, are actually quite simple moments of eating with other people, like eating on a weekday with housemates or with friends or with family. It's like very simple meals where it's literally like leftovers or something. And we just sit there with my parents, for example, when I was a kid, and it's very simple and there's nothing special about it, but just us all sitting together in a very simple way. Or actually the memories I have, and that was the strongest from my childhood, for example. And it's always linked to food. It's always linked to food in some way. So there's something that
I love that. I mean, like even though it's just me and my wife at home, we tend to make the point of always sitting at the table when we have dinner, phones away, share like what we're grateful for that day. I know it's a bit corny, but actually that is associated with the sort of like feelings of happiness and calm and contentment and appreciation, and then across a meal. I think it's a really important habit to instill.
Apparently the Obamas did that every day.
Oh, really?
In the White House, Barack Obama would go and have dinner and ask them for their
Is it 3 things they're grateful for?
Or like the best part of their day and the worst part of their day. And look at them. So
you always have the good facts about stuff like that.
No, I love that. There's loads of like questions you can ask yourself over a meal. It can be, what made you smile today? What made you feel grateful? Like, what is a positive thing that you've done today? I think the positive thing that I've done today is I cooked a fish pie that Charlie...
That was positive for us as
well.
Yeah,
it was positive for you guys. Yeah, it was positive for a number of people, but Charlie in particular, who's behind camera 3, was particularly enamoured by, because he's not usually a fish guy apparently. But.
Finding good questions. I think that's the thing. Developing the art of conversation and asking people's questions and being curious about people's experiences and the way they see the world.
Absolutely.
The way they experience the days and stuff. It's an opportunity to do that, which I think we don't do a lot. Like being open to other people and asking questions and experimenting. So that's another cool one. I don't know how to ask great questions. It's something we need a list of questions around the table. Maybe we should do that for our Christmas
I think that
dinner.
could be like 50 cards to ask. 50
over food.
Yes, exactly. Like you can imagine it being one of those like novelty gifts that you get like crackers or whatever.
We should try
that for the
business
idea.
Christmas dinner.
So the first reason that we've discussed as to why being sat around a table can improve your health and well-being is because of the laughter and storytelling. The second one, this is hopefully going to blow Orla's mind, is it can potentially improve the taste of the food.
What?
Great.
Or make it more pleasant.
Make it more pleasant.
So they did a small brain imaging study where they took participants and they showed them just pictures of food. and with a different social context. So they showed the same food with a label as eating together. So the social context was eating together. And then the same food with a label as eating alone. And when the participants were presented with the food as eating together, they rated the food as more pleasant. And they had more activity in brain regions activity associated with reward compared to eating alone. So they expected the food to be more pleasant just based on a photo when it was associated with a social context compared to when it was associated with eating alone. So there's a whole anticipation thing when you know you're going to eat the same food with other people compared to eating alone, which I thought was quite crazy.
This is awesome because it's, they used brain imaging, and you see all these sort of like headlines these days, like, an fMRI was used to prove that this particular area of the brain was stimulated or was more active when such and such did X activity. I actually quite like these studies, but there seem to be so many of them. But the fact that it triggers more positive feelings and increased brain activity related to food reward, I thought was fascinating. And the first thing that comes to mind is that whole sharing culture that we have at restaurants these days. Like every time you go to a restaurant, it's a sharing concept.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Small plates.
Small plates. It's small plates. Have you been here, guys, before? Like it's small plates, a sharing concept.
You never know how many to order as well.
Yeah, I know.
How many are we supposed to share? I'm hungry.
It's very true. Yeah.
Do you like small plates? That's a no.
I just feel like it's been done to death.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it. It's not cool anymore. No, it's cool, but it's like, stop trying to make it more of a thing than it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think I'm always a little bit skeptical because doesn't it make it easier from a restaurateur point of view to just like pull out the plates whenever they're ready rather than having to coordinate 4 different plates at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my theory anyway.
Yeah.
That's my conspiracy.
Yeah. That is interesting.
I wish it was more common to have a big pot of food that you share like you would in a home, in the restaurant.
Like
and you can, a big pot, and you can serve as much portion as you want.
Yeah.
I wish it was more common because it feels I like that about not the small plates but a big pot, and you serve yourself,
Yeah. That tends to be like how I used to eat when I was at home. With my family, we would have like, Mum would make a big dal and then she would make like a bit of side salad stuff and then bread. That, like, for me is the sort of embodiment of like a sharing concept, I guess. But yeah, the small plates thing, I think there's probably a reason, a more of a commercial reason as to why that's popular.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But the caveat to that is that, well, sharing platters, could make food more pleasant.
Yeah.
And
that also reminds me of when I was a chef and I just had this moment of realizing, like, I used to feel so much pressure, like, is it good enough? Like, and then I realized, like, the food is only part of a person's dining experience. When you go out, it's about the lighting, it's about the background music, it's about the service, it's about your friends, it's about the weather, it's about the day you've had. Like, the food needs to be good, but like, when you talk to your friends about going to a restaurant, like, the food is only part of it. You also mentioned the service and all these other elements. So, yeah.
And purely an anecdote, as an anecdote.
As an anecdote.
Yeah. I feel like food definitely tastes better when you're eating it out as well.
Oh yeah.
And if I'm sure if you did an experiment where you eat it in the restaurant and you take it at home, the same food would not taste the same.
Yeah,
because there is the context. The context influences how you experience it for sure.
Totally. Like, I've had that experience, like many people have, where they get takeout from the same restaurant. And I love the restaurant. There's a Thai restaurant that I absolutely love getting the pad see ew from, and we have like a green sort of veggie curry. Tastes amazing. It's got these beautiful bowls. It's steaming hot. But if you get it delivered to you, it might be slightly like, less hot and steamy, but there's something else that's missing. And I think it's that experience, the lighting, the smell, the ordering, the serve, all that kind of stuff. It really does impact your overall enjoyment of the food.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a whole vibe.
So, third reason, it can promote a sense of trust and togetherness when you're sat around a table eating.
Yeah, so that's another small study. These are all small studies,
Yeah, they're all
but
gonna
I
be
think
small
they're quite
studies.
interesting. So I think they're just cool studies to not just in the reasons why. So they found that strangers who ate the same food reached common agreement quicker in a negotiation game or in a trust game than when they ate different foods. So it was suggested that in a business setting, for example, sharing food, eating around the table could help you reach a common ground quicker and promote trust and cooperation between people compared to eating different foods. So I thought also that was quite cool as well.
That's great. So top tip, if you're negotiating a business deal or merger or something, and you want to try and get to a resolution as quickly as possible, share the
food.
same meal.
Right.
Do it over food.
Do it over food, eat the same food. I wonder if there's like some sort of evolutionary primal reason as to why, if you're literally seeing someone eat the same food as you, it does promote that sense of trust at a very, very deep psychological level.
Yeah, I can imagine they might be. I don't. There's I guess you can feel like they're part of your group, or you know, you wouldn't share food with people who you don't trust already, or I don't know. There's probably something going on.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's something there.
So the other potential reason is that it encourages healthy eating habits. So eating behavior is strongly influenced by those around us, which is why I always say to people, if they're trying to start a healthy eating habit, start a WhatsApp group with people who are also aligned to the same goal, or like check in with someone who's also like, you got to buddy up, you get some accountability, you get motivation, you sort of get that sort of sense of compounding that behavior with someone else who's going through the same struggles with you as well. And it seems that sharing meals around a table has that same sort of impact.
Yeah, so I didn't find any studies on that, but I think we could make the hypothesis that it could also expand your dietary habits. So you could be exposed to new eating habits, and you could be exposed to new ingredients and flavors, spices. Like I'm sure we can all think of a time where we've shared food with people and we've discovered a new way of preparing food, or a new ingredient, or a new flavor, spice, or anything like that. Do you have an example of like a new ingredient you've discovered through someone?
Yeah, well, because my boyfriend is Israeli, so we have this, it's a chili garlic tahini. It is amazing. and we put it on the table sometimes as like a hot sauce. And now I just have so much tahini in my diet.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I'm testing a recipe and I'm trying it out on him, I'll put it on the table. And if he puts it on, that's how I know I need to retest the recipe, because it needs another go. But if he doesn't use it, then the recipe has passed.
Is that like an agreed cue?
No, he doesn't know.
Okay, so
No, we should.
You're disclosing.
I don't want him to listen to this, because he doesn't actually know that that's what I'm doing sometimes. Yeah.
Just looking.
That's an interesting cue. Yeah. I have a similar thing with my wife, where she adds salt to the meal. But the thing is, she is Italian and she does love her salt, so it's quite hard to use as a cue to tell whether it's because the food's not flavorful enough or I've just genuinely underseasoned it. She's usually very good at just being blunt as to whether she likes a meal that I cooked or not. But yeah, and I guess sort of like the elephant in the room is, if you're more likely to be sat around a table with your family, you're more likely to be having home cooked food, which you know exactly what you've put into it. It's unlikely to be processed. You're less likely to have processed foods in your diet, and that can be again correlated with a healthier eating pattern and healthier outcomes.
Yeah. And the fifth reason that we talked about is it's an opportunity to create memories with people.
Yeah, I love this.
I think it was quite a good one, because there's another core study that was published quite recently, I think 2022 or 2023. And they found that 3D printed flavor cues of food could elicit very detailed memories and a very positive emotional experience in people and older adults about past events linked to food. So just the flavor, just the cue, the flavor cue was able to bring them on a time travel experience. So food has that capacity to really create memories that are quite strong and tie us to other people, tie us to our identity, our ancestors, our history with other people, and create a narrative of food across your life.
Absolutely.
That you can then think back to, and it can be kind of a a time capsule that you can keep and think back to when you're experiencing those foods again later in life.
Absolutely.
And
You're basically describing the scene in Ratatouille.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which is, I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I haven't seen Ratatouille.
You need to describe it.
No.
Describe it to us.
Órfhlaith, you've got to watch that this weekend. So there's this really famous scene in Ratatouille where the chef, I think is a critic, tries the ratatouille that the chef / the rat is made in the kitchen. Yeah, that's exactly what happens in the movie. And he's instantly brought back to his childhood when his mum made ratatouille, and like, you know, there's a whole experience, and everyone has that sort of experience because ratatouille is, I'm guessing, is quite a big thing in France. Is that right?
Ratatouille, the dish, not the movie.
Yeah. The movie, the dish.
Yes, the dish. Even in south of France, particularly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's from Provence.
Oh,
hope I'm not.
Okay.
I hope I'm not wrong, but I think it's.
Let's hope you're
I
not
think it's
wrong,
from
Sakina.
Provence. Yeah, I would be butchering my own culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, ratatouille is definitely very famous in France.
I mean, I think everyone has their own version of ratatouille. Like for me, it's sarg, which is this deep green dish that's made with all the different sort of greens you can imagine grown on a farm. You put mukkan in, which is like a white butter that is like usually freshly churned. My dad grew up on a farm, and when we go back, we tend to have that dish. But even if I try that same dish when I'm in London and my mum's made it, for example, it takes me back to that time when we were sat around this earthen fire, and you got the smells of the bread being made and stuff. So there is that sort of the ability to time travel to sort of like hit those sort of memories that you sort of cherish, right? It just sort of comes up to me as soon as I have that dish. I'm assuming you got a dish as well, right?
I was going to say mine is like the totally opposite end of the spectrum because we lived in America when I was young. So for me, it's marshmallow fluff.
Marshmallow fluff? What is marshmallow fluff?
I don't know.
I haven't heard of that.
It's like a spread made of marshmallows. And it's great because if you take a spoonful, like Nutella, it just goes down and no one knows that you've gone into the tub.
No way.
It just goes down. It's magic. Yeah.
Oh my word.
Marshmallow fluff.
What would
Doctor's
you eat
Kitchen.
it on? Would you have it on bread or what would you have it?
Okay.
Marshmallow fluff.
It really shines
Taking notes.
on bread with peanut butter. They call it a fluffer
With
nutter.
peanut butter, whoa.
It's amazing.
That's next level. The textures must be crazy.
It's really good. But now that I'm a grown-up, I'll have an apple, slice up an apple, and then I'll have a little dish with peanut butter and marshmallow fluff.
You can find it in the UK?
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw it in the shop the other day and I got a tub just for nostalgic
Hold on,
reasons.
which shop is this?
I got it in Sainsbury's.
You get everything in Sainsbury's. You got all the chickpeas.
They're very well stocked. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm definitely going to have to try that out. In moderation, obviously.
I don't think it's really going to be your thing, but try it out.
I mean, like, to be fair to me, I eat a lot, and my wife will attest to this. I do eat a lot of like junk food. Not a lot. I do enjoy it whenever I do, and I think like if you are gonna enjoy like marshmallow fluff, whatever it is, don't feel guilty about it. Just enjoy it for the moment that it is, and then like 80-90% of the time you're going to be eating whole, unprocessed, home cooked food. But when you are going to be eating junk, which is inevitable for everyone, just enjoy it.
This is it. The poison is in the dose.
Exactly.
We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, we do. It's all about dose and quality whenever it comes to any sort of ingredient, for sure.
But I think with all of that, so I think we have some benefits of eating for the people. But when we first started talking about that, you were saying, but I love eating alone.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe some of the benefits of eating for the people, like slowing down and creating a nice environment and taking the time to eat, could maybe translate into eating alone as well.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think so. And I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to forget about that because I don't want it to seem like, or like every single time we have breakfast, lunch, dinner, we're sat around a table and we're eating slow and we've got laughter and we're like, we have memories of everything that we've made. Sometimes I absolutely love having my breakfast on my own with a bit of light music in the background or shock horror in front of my computer watching Saturday Kitchen reruns because and that for me is my happy place. And I probably eat a bit too fast, I probably don't chew my food enough, but there is something about that experience for me that is pleasurable. If I was just like mindlessly scrolling on my phone and being distracted from the meal in a big way, then I think that there is probably a balance there that we should be striking. But yeah, sometimes I think, you know, it can be a healthful experience to eat on your own. That's my opinion anyway.
I think so too. There's a moment of peace as well, where you can just appreciate a moment for yourself.
Yeah.
But maybe it's about that balance, like consciously making the efforts of meeting other people and organizing meals with family or friends or coworkers or neighbors or sometimes, you know, a few times a week or a few times a month or every couple of months, whatever is good for you. And then making the time to eat by yourself and making that a pleasant experience as well when you are eating alone.
Yeah, actually, a lot of my friends are mothers and fathers, and they tell me they look forward to the time where they don't have any chaos at the table, because it can be a really stressful experience with kids. So you can imagine, like, you know, just having a bowl of soup in the corner, you know, on your own is a magical experience as well.
Yeah,
that is peace. Yeah, well. That might be a good memory for them as well. Every time they have soup,
also
you know?
another memory of food. In terms of practice, I was thinking to ask you if you had any tips for making meals with other people, because I think it can be a stressful experience sometimes, either to cook for other people.
That's a really good point.
Or to cook with other people. Yeah. Even if you're trying to share the task or doing a potluck or anything, it can be a bit stressful, and some people don't know. I don't always know how to do it, so it goes well. Do you have any tips for that or any preferred dishes?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think just like don't try to show off.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to be stressed. People are going to feel guilty because you're stressed over trying to cook for them. Just keep it simple. Don't show off. If I ever have people over, I'll always do, or most of the time I'll do something like a lasagna. So all of the work is done beforehand and you just have to put it in the oven and serve it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be that host that's like fussing over everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also I'm thinking of Julia Child now, because her big thing was never apologize. So if you're the one cooking and you don't think it's your best, don't mention it, because then people are going to have to feel like they have to reassure you. Like, just don't say anything.
That's a really good point, actually. And now you say that, every time I've been to someone's house where they fussed over their own food and they said, oh, it's not perfect on this, it's like, I just want to enjoy it because I think it's brilliant. I think it's great, and it's more about the act of love that you know someone is serving you, more than like the taste. I'm not going to be going all Jay Rayner. And actually, I get this a lot because obviously someone having written 4 cookbooks.
And people expect.
People get really shot. Like they get really scared when I come around for dinner. I'm like, guys, honestly, I'm like that Homer Simpson's episode. Do you know when he becomes a health food critic? I don't know if you watch Simpsons.
I can't remember that episode.
So he becomes. Do you know the one?
And pizza is his favorite thing.
It's so funny. He becomes a food critic and. He's overly nice about everything, and one of the lines is, the worst thing you rated was a piece of pizza you found behind the sofa that was a week old, and you gave it 2 thumbs up. I'm basically like that, maybe not to that extreme, but another thing that I make whenever I'm hosting is definitely like prep ahead meals, like a lasagna, so you can do all the prep work before and then just bang it in. Last week we had some friends round for like a little Christmas celebration thing, and we did the celebration salmon, the spice salmon, that's actually on the app. Again, marinated it, whacked it in the oven, only takes 20 minutes, and then I served that with a side salad and some roasted veggies, and that was it, just roasted veggies. But one-pan dishes are my go-to. I'm not going to be doing like a Gordon Ramsay 5-6 course. Have you seen that masterclass of Gordon Ramsay?
No.
He literally goes through like a dining experience and like, oh, you can do this for starters and this for main and then this for dessert. No way am I doing that. I'm not doing that. There's no way, Gordon.
No way. No.
What about having people bring dishes? So if someone brings the starter and then someone brings the dessert and whatever, like side dishes or something like that. Do you do that, potlucks?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah. I think I like to be the coordinator and just choose the recipes that people will be doing, so I can sort of like put everything together and it's all going to be sort of cohesive. So you're not going to get like a Korean meal and the Indian dish and all this kind of stuff.
So you tell people what to bring. Yeah. But then everyone can bring something, and then there's less pressure as well.
Yes.
On your dish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because your dish is going to be like really good. Yeah.
Exactly.
I did, the last time I did it, it was sort of my comfort zone, which is Indian cooking. So I basically told people, okay, you're going to make that dal, you're going to make these like roasted sort of spiced veggies, you're going to bring the yogurt. That was the easiest one, just grate some cucumber in it and a bit of masala on top, and it's like great. I usually give that one to someone who's not
Into it.
adept in the kitchen or into it, yeah. But that works really well because everyone comes and you share, and again, it's sort of that magical share. And the fact is, the last time I did that, honestly, Sakina, that was probably 7 years ago now, because we've had COVID in between and the sharing sort of meals. And I still remember exactly who was there, what dishes. So and we haven't rehearsed this at all. That's literally like what my memory, that's like burned into my memory. Isn't that fascinating?
It is cool.
Yeah.
It is really cool. I think as well, like when you were saying, don't over apologize for your food. It's all about creating a nice experience around the food as well, like putting music when you're preparing the food or playing cards after eating and stuff like that. That also people remember that more than the food often.
Totally.
The things you did around the conversation, the laughter, the cards, the games, all these things are quite cool that we can bring into those moments. Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think, Doctor's Kitchen doesn't necessarily need to be about the nutrient density of the ingredients. It doesn't necessarily need to be about like having a particular macronutrient ratio. It can be about the pleasure of food. And as some of these small studies, which obviously have confounders demonstrate, is that there can be a healthful element to it by just eating around a table and sharing conversation and memories and stuff. And hopefully we're going to have a lot more of those in the studio as well.
Yeah, Christmas dinner.
Christmas dinner. It's coming. Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been awesome.
Thanks.
If you like that video, then you will love the full library from the Doctor's Kitchen podcast. We talk about inflammation, immune health benefits, and much, much more about food as medicine, including this video right here that you can click through right now.